I nearly choked on my coffee when I pulled into my driveway and laid eyes on my barn. My trusty old barn, once a proud, weathered red, was now screaming neon pink like a cotton candy machine had blown up all over it. It wasn't just pink, it was the kind of pink that could wake a coma patient. I thought it was a prank at first, some kids with too much time and spray paint. But then I spotted it, a laminated notice taped to the barn doors like a smug little trophy. Color updated to comply with aesthetic standards. Approved by HOA President Karen Walsh. Karen, of course. Late 40s, peroxide blonde bob, always strutting around in pastel cardigans like she was auditioning for a real estate ad. She'd been a thorn in my side since I moved to this neighborhood 2 years ago, claiming my rustic VYB was an eyesore in her carefully curated suburban utopia. I live on the edge of the development, for Pete's sake. The only ones who see my barn are me, the deer, and maybe a rogue raccoon. Fuming, I stormed inside and dialed the HOA office. Karen picked up, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Oh, Lucas, I'm so glad you noticed. We had a committee meeting, and we all agreed that Old Barn was dragging down the community's color palette. Pink is so much more. In VY Ting." I could practically hear her smug smile. "You trespassed on my property and painted my barn without permission." I snapped. "It's vandalism." She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Lucas, you signed the HOA agreement. Page 27, paragraph 3, minor aesthetic enhancements. Look it up." Then she hung up. That's when I knew this wasn't just Karen being clueless. She thought she was untouchable. I called my buddy Mike, a contractor who's seen every kind of construction disaster. He took one look at the barn and whistled. "Lucas, this ain't an enhancement. It's a crime scene." That weekend, I turned into a one-man detective agency. I pulled security footage showing an HOA truck, 2 guys in uniforms, and cans of that god-awful pink paint. I dug through the HOA bylaws, vague as they were. Nothing gave them the right to repaint private property without consent. Then I called my cousin Emily, a real estate lawyer with a knack for cutting through nonsense. "You got VY Deo?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Crystal clear," I said. "I'm taking this case," she replied, "and I'm billing it to Karen personally." By Monday, Emily had filed a cease and desist, a property damage report, and a complaint with the county. Karen started blowing up my phone, but I forwarded every call to Emily. She'd already drafted a demand for restitution, citing trespassing, property damage, and half a dozen state statutes. But Emily wasn't just playing defense. "You're not the only one fed up with her," she said, scrolling through a file she'd built. 4 other homeowners filed complaints about Karen in the last year. 2 backed off when she threatened them with special assessments. That was Karen's code for made-up fines. Emily flagged it as coercion and added it to our case against Karen's abuse of power. The barn looked even worse in daylight streaks of pink dripping like melted ice cream. No primer, just a sloppy rush job done at midnight. My neighbor Tom, a grizzled guy with a pickup older than me, pulled up. "You hear what she did to Miller's shutters?" he asked. I shook my head. "Lime green, last month. Said it was a test color." He was out of town, came back to a house that looked like a key lime pie. Tom nodded at my barn. "This is bigger than paint, Lucas. She's bullying people into submission." Then he dropped a bombshell. "I never joined the HOA. My deed's older than their charter. They send me notices, but they can't touch me." That was a game changer. If Karen was targeting homes outside her jurisdiction, she wasn't just overstepping, she might be committing fraud. Tom agreed to talk to Emily, and by Wednesday, we had a stack of testimonials. One couple said Karen fined them due law $600 for keeping their old wooden fence instead of switching to her approved VYNYL. Another family claimed she threatened to yank their pool permit unless they donated to her beautification fund. Then Emily hit the jackpot. She paid the painter under the table, she said, her voice electric. Venmo payments from the HOA account to a guy named Ricky Teresa Handyman, not a licensed painter. And Ricky's got a rap sheet, 2 trespassing charges, and a pending property damage complaint. We had her. Karen had used HOA funds to hire a shady guy to deface my property. Emily escalated the case to the county attorney's office. Thursday, 2 plainclothes officers showed up at my place. I handed over the security footage, the Venmo records, and Karen's laminated notice, preserved in a Ziploc bag. The younger officer's eyebrows shot up when he read it. That afternoon, I drove by the HOA office, a dinky, converted garage, and saw a squad car out front. Karen was on the porch, arms crossed, looking like she'd bitten a lemon. She spotted me, but didn't flinch. By Friday, the county announced a full investigation into the HOA's finances. Karen was asked to step down during the audit, and a temporary administrator, a no-nonsense retiree named Harold, took over. Saturday, Emily called with big news. Karen caved. She's offering to pay for the repainting full restoration. License contractor, your choice. But she wants you to sign an NDA. No press, no talking. I laughed. No deal. Fix my barn, but I'm not staying quiet. People need to know. Emily drafted a counteroffer. Karen pays, issues a written apology, and we push for community restitution. If she refused, we'd file criminal charges. That night, Karen showed up in my Dorno cardigan, just a plain jacket, looking deflated. I'm sorry, she said, eyes on the ground. I overstepped. I was trying to keep standards. I wasn't buying it. You hired a crook to paint my barn at 2 a.m., Karen. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. She nodded barely. I'll pay to fix it, whatever color you want, and I'll step down if the board asks. They already did, I said. She left without another word. Monday, a professional crew arrived. They stripped the pink, sanded the wood, and restored the barn to its deep, rustic red. It looked like it was mint tosalid, honest. But the real VY Tory came at the next HOA meeting. With Karen gone, Harold opened the floor. For 2 hours, neighbors unloaded years of grievances. Fines for nothing, threats, manipulation. I spoke last. Karen's out, but she wasn't the only problem. The system let her run wild. We need transparency, accountability, and hard limits on what the HOA can do. The room roared with applause. We voted to amend the bylaws. Fines needed board approval. Assessments had to be justified, and no one could touch private property without written consent or a court order. For a few weeks, the neighborhood felt lighter. People waved more, smiled easier. Then Harold showed up at my door with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. You need to see this, he said, looking like he hadn't slept. The county audit had uncovered a bombshell. Karen had siphoned over $70,000 from the HOA over 3 years. Fake vendors, undocumented withdrawals, a sham landscaping company called Brightleaf Solutions registered to a P.O. box. She'd buried it by bullying anyone who asked questions. The county prosecutor was now digging into her personal finances, sniffing out felony theft. Neighbors gathered at my place, clutching old fines and invoices due law $250 for unauthorized mailbox design, due law $400 for excessive garden decor. Emily, on a VY-DAO call, laid it out. If this money went into the HOA and was misused, we can file a class action suit for restitution and punitive damages. By night's end, we had 25 sworn affidavits of VYTS, each one painting the same picture. Karen had run the HOA like her personal ATM, using fear to keep us in line. Then came another twist. The new treasurer, a quiet woman named Clara, found that Karen had secured a due law $45,000 state grant for community upgrades, benches, lighting, a walking trail. The money was gone, never spent. The state auditor got involved, then the local news. A reporter stood outside the HOA office, pointing out its peeling paint while reading the grant's promise of modernized community spaces. Karen vanished, phone off, house dark. A week later, she was arrested at her cousin's place, charged with fraud, larceny, and misuse of public funds. The HOA board called an emergency meeting in the school gym. Hundreds showed up. Harold spoke, then Clara, and then, to my surprise, they called me. I faced the crowd. We want to move on, but we can't ignore how this happened. We gave one person too much power. We signed papers without reading, paid fines without fighting. It's not just Karen, it's us. I say we dissolve the HOA and start fresh with a neighborhood council. Elected reps, term limits, open books. A guy in the back yelled, "What about our fines?" Emily chimed in. "If we win the suit, you'll get your money back. But we need the council to make it happen." The vote was unanimous. The HOA was gone by month's end, replaced by the Pine Hollow Neighborhood Council. Volunteers stepped up, not to rule, but to serve. The barn became a symbol. Kids from the local art class asked to paint a mural on a temporary, seasonal. I said yes. They painted rolling hills, a blue sky, a red barn standing tall. No pink anywhere. At Karen's sentencing, I sat in the back. The judge didn't mince words. You abused your power, manipulated your neighbors, and stole from those who trusted you. That's not stress, that's criminal. She got 4 years, suspended after 18 months if she repaid everything. Restitution checks arrived weeks later, each with a note from the council. Your reimbursement and our apology for the harm you endured. Clara had spent weeks verifying every claim, unearthing years of hidden damage, not just money, but trust. Then the prosecutor called. They found another fake company, this one tied to a dead man's name, linked to a drain account in Nevada. Federal grant fraud, identity misuse. Karen faced another decade if Con vy Ted. Emily joined the state attorney's team as an ad vy SOAR, her case file exposing flaws in HOA oversight statewide. I was called to testify at a legislative hearing. I'm not against neighborhood groups, I told them, but without checks and balances, you get people like Karen Walsh wielding fear like a weapon. They asked about mandatory audits, term limits, appealable fines. I said yes to all of it. Back home, the barn's mural changed with the season's fall pumpkins, winter snow. I built a bench nearby, and folks started stopping there on walks, chatting, connecting. A woman named Rachel approached me one day. I'm with the Homeowner Advocacy Alliance, she said. We're reforming HOAs across the region. Will you speak at our summit? I wasn't a speaker, but I went. 60 people showed up, sharing stories of overreaching HOAs. Don't wait for a Karen, I told them. Read your rules. Ask questions. Fight early. The old HOA office became a community, hub, knitting classes, poker nights, life. Karen's plea deal added more time. Her assets liquidated to repay the state. I didn't cheer. Closure came from rebuilding, not revenge. One spring morning, I touched up the barn's trim, the red paint going on smooth. A council flyer flapped on the fence. Garden plots, a library box, an art walk. No fines, just ideas. The barn stood as it always had, but now was more a reminder that no matter how deep the rot, you can dig it out, rebuild, repaint, not just in red, but in truth. So what do you think? Was I too hard on Karen, or did she deserve every bit of it? Should HOAs have this much power, or are they just a recipe for petty tyrants? Could you have stayed calm with a neon pink barn in your yard? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you felt the fight, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy fights back.